Hello peoples on the internet, I am the German guy, and welcome to my very first movie review. So what will the show be about? Well, unless you are a multiple language genius, I can show you one or two movies that you probably don't know. And I will try my very best to be a fair and balanced critic, just like Fox News is. That being said, this piece of shit movie is literally worse than Hitler! Before we start, time for a little bit background information. Germany, unlike America, has a very small movie making scene, due to the fact that no one really can compete against Hollywood. Most of these movies I will review, therefore, will be comedy movies, because they are, compared to big action blockbusters, very cheap to make. As time goes by, we will talk more about the entertainment industry in Germany, or lack thereof. But for now, let's stay focused because we got a lot to cover. Most movies that do get produced in Germany stay in Germany, as you may have noticed. They usually don't end up on the big screen either, they stay on TV forever. If, however, a movie of bigger magnitude gets released and it's very successful, that means a lot of excitement for people. Oh, look at us, we can do the pictures too! This overexcitement leads to people not critically examining a movie and realizing that it's complete and utter bullshit. Which brings me to our movie for the day, Die Grenze, the border. How do I best describe this movie? You know how in America people are scared of completely absurd things like killer bees and road rage, stuff that makes your brain scream yet somehow attracts millions of people? Yeah, it's like that, only 10 times worse. Basically, this movie asks the question of how it would look like if Germany would be once again separated between East and West, and what the reasons for that happening would be. And let me tell you, it's fucking stupid! But I wasn't finished yet telling you everything you need to know before we can really start. Like America, Germany is divided in different sub-states, like Bavaria, Niedersachsen, and so on. Important difference is that after the fall of the Berlin Wall, it was so that the states formerly ruled by the Soviet Union were economically on a much lower scale than in the West, and had therefore some unequal treatment by the federal government. To answer your curiosity, I'm from here. It's that teeny tiny thingy over there. I just need to walk 5 minutes in that direction and I'm in the Netherlands. So yeah, anyway, for a long time now people had an absurd fear, like one of those mentioned above, that it could happen that socialism gets a comeback and tears our country apart and brings us into a new Cold War age. Ignoring the fact that the absolute majority, including those who are unsatisfied with the capitalist system, would never ever go back to that old life. So what would need to happen that such a situation could ever occur again? Well, let's find out what this movie claims. The movie begins with one of our main characters, Nadine Manz, having a job interview at a hotel as a cook. And okay, I know it's just a TV production at all, but come on, even if the budget was this low, does it have to look this grey and joyless? Every camcorder in the universe makes better footage. In fact, let's make the comparison, shall we? Who looks less like an undead zombie? Who would you rather watch? Well, come to think of it, it's actually a trick question. The interviewer agrees to give her a job. Strange, normally they tell you this after a week or so first. And we cut over to Berlin to our second protagonist, named Rolf Haas, who works as a designer for a commercial company. And he looks at a television screen, and we cut over to Berlin Parliament, where a woman who looks nothing like Angela Merkel is being photographed by reporters. Then being called inside, where the newscaster says the terrorists have blown up 7 big oil refineries at the same time. And we cut back to Nadine and her family again. You just know you're going to have a great time when the movie can't concentrate longer than 3 seconds. After this very bad attempt to establish characters, with telling us little to nothing about these people except that they exist, we see that Nadine, her daughter, and her friend Rika and her son are driving through the city where all hell has been breaking loose. They turn on the radio and hear that because of the terrorist attacks, the global market is riding roller coaster, with the oil price tripling in just a few hours and other crap. They go to the docks where they meet up with Nadine's father, who tells them that because of the crisis, every boat in the port could not go fishing today. We are simple men down here. We buy just enough oil so that it lasts for 1 day each. We are kind of stupid that way. And here we have our first big problem with this film. The starting premise is unrealistic. That wouldn't be so bad if it wasn't praised by so many and advertised especially by itself as the movie that shows what can happen in the real world if we are not careful. Germany and a lot of other states in the European Union do have an emergency plan for a case like this. We have enough reserves to go on for another 1.5 or 2 months. Enough time to adjust to the new situation and finding solutions. But in this movie it's like, no, we don't have oil anymore, period. From 1 day to another, it's all gone, society collapses now, fuck you. We cut again back to Rolf Haas, where one of his colleagues points to the television screen where a man named Maximilian Schnell announces that he and his party, one of the strongest in Mecklenburg, will start a program to help everyone affected by the economic turmoil. Oh, and he is a Nazi. It makes sense. It's a movie that plays on people's deepest and absurdest fears. Of course there got to be a Nazi in there. Now mix in some swine flu and how there is an Islamic terrorist behind every garden gnome, and we can call it a day. See, what this movie is trying to do is to be a sort of retelling of the 1920s to 1940s, which because of extreme poverty gave power to radical groups left and right, completely ignoring the socio-economic and political structure of the Weimar Republic. I can only imagine that a drunk writer found a history book of the last century on the street and decided to build a story around the key important events, but I digress. While the situation is getting worse and worse and worse, Mummy Merkel does what politicians do best, making a big speech about how we all need to stand together and stuff. But she gets interrupted by Max Schnell, who put up some speakers and says what many people are thinking.
Seien Sie doch ehrlich, Frau Bundeskanzlerin. Sie werden Hartz IV kürzen und sich einen Dreck darum scheren, dass die Hälfte von denen, die hier auf dem Platz stehen, noch in dieser Woche ihren Job verlieren.
This is problematic for several reasons. This movie is about how radicalism destroys a democratic and fair society, and you should believe that when it touches on these very good themes, like the relationship between government and its people, that it would give a very good response. But it never truly follows up on stuff that is being mentioned in this scene. We see our leaders debating about these important issues, but it all feels so distant and uncaring, as if everything that they're really trying to do is to hold up the status quo. And for people who feel disenfranchised with the system or think democracy is useless, that will get interpreted as them being right. That is not helped by the fact that the government in this movie is even more incompetent than Mr. Bean. After Mr. Schnell has hindered Merkel to calm down the people, we get a news montage of his career and how he made his millions. He and his life are so cliché, it would even make a Bond villain cringe. Just look at him and his goons. They look like the evil version of Apple. That is, they look like Apple. With a headquarters that makes me think of Mussolini's office, only that the face in front of it got nose fucked. By God, the name of his political organization is the DNS. I have to keep reminding myself that it is not a parody. It's not a parody. Someone actually looked at this and thought that's serious storytelling. I actually feel very sorry for this movie. Really, I do. It tries to come across to its audience like some groundbreaking new way of cinema, yet it is trapped in an eternal limbo located in its own anus. Anyway, we switch over to Rolf, who has been fired from his job. Arriving at home, he realizes that the locks to his apartment have been switched and all his credit cards have been blocked. The only thing that he has left now is his money in his pocket. He tries to get a place to sleep in a shelter but gets rejected because he looks like one of those rich snobs who fire people from their job. Get it? Social commentary and class warfare. Naturally, Rolf doesn't even try to go to another charity and just buys some alcohol and gets drunk. Well, I guess if you are homeless, you can as well make the picture complete. This, however, leads to Rolf getting abducted by Linda, Agency of Constitutional Protection. She informs Rolf that it was them who froze his bank accounts and got him fired. They did this so Rolf would have a motivation for the mission he was chosen for. Because just asking him very nicely and then threatening to destroy his life would be just dumb? But yeah, what's the worst thing that could have happened? I mean, he could have committed suicide by now, but your solution is also good. Anyway, the mission involves Rolf's past. He was once a political activist and was friends with, who else? Maximilian Schnell. The Secret Service wants him to infiltrate the DNS as a sleeper cell and find evidence of criminal activities. That way, the government can take out Schnell, and without his financial support, the DNS has little to no chance of survival. After some pointless scenes with Nadine, who has been moving in with her boyfriend Robert, and another one with our favorite lawmakers, we go over to Nadine's father Erich, who recently lost his boat and is pissed. And because we don't know any other way to start a fight scene, Erich gets into a bar fight with some DNS members.
Okay, Jungs, aufräumen.
So the solution to violence was guns after all. Next, Rolf enters the bar and meets Erich. Rolf and his daughter were together once, but because he was the Molotov cocktail throwing protester kind and Nadine was a police officer, he left her. And also because some of his friends broke her a leg and she had to give up police duty and he feared he'd end up in prison. You know, relationships. Soon afterwards, Rolf tells the cover-up story that he is supposed to tell. He is ordered to move back in with Nadine because he is sorry and because he is searching for work. This story is so stupid that even the characters point out that Mecklenburg-Vorpommern is not the greatest of places to find work at the moment. And then there is the fact that Nadine has an everlasting hate for Rolf after he left her, but the movie thinks if it just keeps ignoring these plot holes, they will just disappear. Erich, still pissed at his situation and because he's a socialist, wants to fight back. He convinces Rolf to steal one of the trucks of the DNS at the docks with food and oil to bribe the workers into voting for them in the coming elections. They do so, and the next morning they do the most sensible thing that you can imagine. They give all the food to the starving people in the neighborhood. In broad daylight. I don't need to explain why this is stupid, do I? You could at least wait for a couple of days and carefully asking around people you trust to give away to. If just one person informs the police that this is kind of suspicious, you are dropping soap in the shower tonight. Wait, this is an American thing. But worst part is, they do it in front of their own home. Great idea, dude. When the neo-Nazi thugs want revenge, they know just which house to burn down. This is so fucking irresponsible! But of course, thanks to sheer dumb luck, no one tells the police anything. Here it is that Nadine and Rolf first meet again in 8 years. She understandably is freaking out over the fact that Rolf is coming back just now after his life in Berlin happened to fall apart. And for some bizarre reason, Erich and Rike want him to stay because they think he is the perfect guy for Nadine. Oh yeah, the type of guy that leaves you when you have a broken leg and can't do your own work anymore. The type of guy that doesn't call you once in 8 years. The type of guy that now only comes back because he has selfish reasons. Isn't it great to have a family that only wants the best for you? Reminds me when my parents tried to convince me to marry an actual cannibal. They let him stay, and Linda gives Rolf new instructions. He can work at a charity concert as a security guard where he can get to Maximilian Schnell, who will use this opportunity for a propaganda stunt. When the actual concert starts, it's this. If like a Paris Hilton mixtape and Justin Bieber had sex and would make a child, and that child would vomit into a microphone, that is what it would sound like. Oh, and just by the way, fuck this guy! No, fuck all of you! No, not rock and roll! Stop clapping! They suck! This was awful! This was like every rejected radio commercial song ever! No! Stop! After that, the main event is about to begin. The fuck am I looking at?
Ich finde das ganz komisch hier irgendwie, also...
No shit, lady, this is fucking weird. This is like Tadeo's dancing. What is even the message here? How is this a brilliant Joseph Goebbels-like demagogic speech? This is a strange noises and some random words from the dictionary. You had better chances winning the elections by just doing this.
I am Rudy Giuliani. Do as I command you. I am Rudy Giuliani. Do as I command you.
No time to think about that, as suddenly some SWAT teams are marching into the concert hall and start to beat the crap out of the audience. Deep down they know they deserve it. The now starting panic causes Rolf to abandon his mission of meeting Schnell, as he runs to rescue Nadine from the beating. Her daughter gets hit by a police cop and she is sent to a hospital where the doctor tells them that if she isn't getting operated soon, she might will go blind forever. Not knowing how to get enough money to transport her to a specialist in another hospital by helicopter, they go home where they meet up with Erich, Robert and Rike, whose son has been shot dead by one of the police officers. And we got to see every second of moping and doping, and we even got to sit through an entire funeral and I know this makes me sound cruel, but hear me out. Of course I feel sad when I watch this scene, but not as much as the movie wants me to. By and large, the son is a stranger to me. I can only get emotionally invested in character deaths when I got to know them first. Know what kind of person they were, what they thought, how they felt. But this kid barely got any screen time. I'm not even sure if he spoke more than one sentence. Why are we spending so much time for a character that hasn't even been developed? Imagine if Mufasa was killed in the first 5 minutes of The Lion King. Would you feel sad? I mean, would you remember it as one of the most saddest moments of all of cinema history? No! You did so because you saw the father-son relationship between Simba and Mufasa. You saw how they loved each other. But you don't have this here. All you have is, I'm a kid, now I'm dead, feel sad. And it's simply not possible to feel as much pain for the death for someone that you had no connections to, other than basic human empathy that you have, or should have, for every other person. And now, as I'm thinking about it, I'm even getting freaking pissed. This is like the death of that Harper girl in Cry for Justice. It's completely pointless, it has no relevance to the story, and only exists as a cheap trick to grab the viewer's attention. Really, this entire plot point could have been erased, and it had no impact whatsoever. Some time has passed, and in the next scene we got DNS and the left militia fighting on the open street with violence escalating everywhere. Both factions splitting the city into two halves. Get it? It's just like that thing from a few decades you remember. Yeah, one question. Where the fuck is the government in all of this? I mentioned it before, and here's what I mean. The democratic government is completely ineffective. But oh my friends, the great part, the movie tries to justify this bullcrap. We cut to Berlin where our politicians hold a debate about what to do. And here's where the nonsense detector should explode. Merkel asks a general if they can deploy troops to stop the violence, by which he replies that would result in a house-to-house combat situation which the German army, die Bundeswehr, is not trained for. That doesn't matter! If a terrorist group, an army, or any other hostile force is doing damage to the Republic of Germany, you have to intervene. This is not like a question if we are sending troops to another broken country. This is the question of protecting democracy itself at home. After she gets a nay from the colonel, she asks where the DNS and the New Left are getting their equipment from. The answer, the socialists are getting them from private donations, and the DNS completely legal. I don't have any words. You are not even trying anymore, do you? First, what German has a Kalashnikov in his bedroom? In America, oh sure, I guess some of you are sitting on your plutonium-filled pillows while watching this. But in Germany, we only have like 30,000 gun owners, and Mecklenburg-Vorpommern only has 1.5 million citizens, and most gun owners don't have military-grade weaponry. Where are they supposed to get those? The only way that works is if they bought them from another country. So let me get this straight. The world economy is totally collapsing right now. People are starving in the street, but they still can order weapons from elsewhere? Seriously? That's what they have money for? Seriously? Is the entire government except these 12 people on vacation right now? Nobody protecting the borders, nobody at Amazon or eBay or at the post is checking this shit? And the DNS has a private army that it is using this very moment to separate a city. Is one half of your brain in a coma? Even more reason to use the full force of the state. But oh no, we can't do that. Would make the people hate us. An actual quote from the movie, by the way. A, the people already hate you. B, I may have not stretched this enough, but you have an obligation to protect the people from harm. This looks like harm to me. C, if you know that this is Schnell's private army, then you don't need Rolf anymore. You have your evidence for criminal activity. Schnell uses a private military to take over a city. No matter how chaotic the worldwide situation may be, this is still illegal. D, if you really can't do anything, if you are really this fucking incompetent, if you really can't do really anything against these radical groups, then use the fucking NATO! That's what it's there for! And if all of the European members are also totally crippled, then ask out the big brother, the United States of the Americas! And if that doesn't work, the fucking UN! And why is it that we don't see what is going on in other parts of the world and Germany anyway? Why is Mecklenburg suddenly the only state that has so many problems? If the entire republic is in deep chaos, just as this one state is, how the fuck can these people sit in a room together and watch some stupid news all day? Oh yeah, I totally forgot. This movie uses tons and tons of actual news footage to fill airtime with. And so many fucking election statistics. It's so boring. So anyhow, the group makes a decision. They will give the leaders of the socialists the promise that they will support them financially and that they will let them separate Mecklenburg from the rest of Germany to build their own socialist republic. That, for better or worse, will give the federal government a group in power that at least at some level can be negotiated with. And that new country will be kept alive with the money they give them, which makes them controllable. Did I mention that the premise of this movie is completely hogwash? A smaller state can, in theory, separate itself from the main country, but that is only possible when an absolute majority of all Germans agrees with it. But on a state level, it is not possible, because federal law stands above local government. So, fail, movie. Just fail. Or, to put it in more American terms, dumb Constitution says no. Yeehaw! Linda, in an earlier conversation with Rolf, told him that they knew that Schnell was going to be at a concert because they got another informant, who spied on Robert, who turns out is one of the highest ranking activists of the DNS. Rolf then has the idea to suggest to Erich that they kidnap Robert from a meeting of the DNS that is happening tonight, which would make a critical hit against the fascists. He agrees, and Erich and his socialist buddies tie him up in a warehouse. Robert then gets confronted by Nadine.
Was soll ich, wie beschissen sich das anfühlt?
Wärst du denn bei mir geblieben, wenn ich dir gesagt hätte, wie ich denke und wie...
Natürlich nicht!
Yes, screaming at him because he is a Nazi is well deserved, but I would prefer if you would scream at him because he is an idiot. We saw you at the meeting appearing in one of the DNS campaign ads. Do you expect your girlfriend never to turn on the television? Or her father? Or her best friend? Why would you do that, you moron? You moronic moron! Rolf then cuts him free and lets it look like he has been knocked out, which gets him a call from Maximilian Schnell, with the intention of meeting him. He agrees and then gets a dive in one of his big-ass aquariums, only to be moments later greeted by Schnell like an old friend. He then invites him in his office, and he tells him his story of how he just wanted to meet him again. And there's a subplot with him and Schnell about their violent activist days and how he was ramming a glass bottle through his hand and he is sorry and I really don't care. Mr. Schnell then orders Rolf to give him any reason of why he should not dump his dead body in the river, and that he wants an answer in less than 10 minutes. I just love this ending. He's standing there like, dude, what the hell? First drowning, then drowning again? Not cool, man. Not cool. Anyway, yes, I said ending, because this movie is actually separated into two parts, but is still one movie. But because I feel very full of energy, I will do that one too now. And mostly because I want to get this over with and never talk about it again. So we will begin where we left off. Rolf tries to talk himself out of this predicament, but nothing works.
Vielleicht hilft dir das, wenn ich Reden für die Jugend kreiere, benutze ich Eminem. Wichtiger als der Inhalt ist der Rhythmus.
Does it even help when I ask why? So yeah, Rolf creates some very clever slogans on spot and saves his life. The next 30 minutes are basically wasting time. There's an unnecessary sex scene between Linda and Rolf, but not because of feels, but because he's under constant surveillance by some high-end technology shit and they need to disrupt the sound. More wasting time, and more wasting time, and then Linda gets being followed. She throws the tracking device out of the window, but her car's still getting watched by some satellite that the DNS apparently has. But finally she manages to shake them off by, you won't believe this, driving her car under a bridge. Oh yes, you have all this NSA shit at your disposal and you have perfectly good footage and sound while your satellite is following people. But by God, who could have thought that concrete would be your kryptonite? It's so impossible to follow her now. She has so many options to go away now, like the other side of the bridge. Oh, that would require Star Trek tech. And who even cares that we later spy on Rolf through the concrete walls of a hospital? Am I right? So what else is there to say? We got some boring spying, some boring television debate, and then some driving through the city with Linda after Rolf again did not found any clues. But thanks to the magic help of plot convenience, he sees the face of one of the police officers from the concert and realizes that it is one of the DNS members. On a stupidity scale from 1 to 100 billion, you would definitely hit the infinite mark. I mean, how can you not put Schnell in prison by now? If you know that a supposed police force is beating on innocent people and you know it wasn't you, then who, the flying donkey, do you think has the resources and the motive to create such a task force? How can you not put one and one together? You know what? It would have been easier for the plot to work if the terrorists would have blown up the parliament or dropped an asteroid on it or something. I don't know anything to make it go away. Just stop making such lame explanations why you don't do anything. It is so obvious that the DNS is criminal, and it would be so easy for an actual investigator to figure this out. Just catch one of these supposed police officers, check his identity, and then if he has connections to the DNS party, and the next one has two, and the next one has two, then you can declare the entire party a criminal organization. Which I believe is called a RICO case. That we don't use here in Germany, but with that much evidence you can get a search order. But no, we have to keep this contrived spy plot going. So in order to get more popularity, Herr Schnell agrees on request by Rolf to a publicity stunt, by which he pays for the operation of Nadine's daughter. Rolf is allowed access to the mainframe, so he can use some footage to edit a campaign ad, with scenes of the little girl's operation as the cream on top. They trust him now completely because they think he has killed a spy in their midst, who actually committed suicide. Rolf finishes the video, but only with scenes that prove that Schnell was building a fake police force. He plays the video on the press conference and makes his escape to the roof, from which he jumps into the river, where Erich already is waiting for him. Then we get a scene that is really painful to watch, as Socialist and DNS are shooting without hitting anything, even though they are 60 meters close to each other. Oh, guys, even the stormtroopers find this embarrassing. Then Robert shoots Schnell in the head to make it look like he felt remorse, and to save the party from a public shitstorm. Sure, of course, we abandoned all logic at the doorstep, so why should we start using it now? Then, a couple of weeks later, socialism has once again raised its flag over Germany, and people are immigrating by the millions to the new utopia, and they all lived happily ever after. Or will they? Dun dun dun! The film points out the obvious, that sooner or later, even with the help of normal Germany, the socialist experiment is just doomed to fail, as the national debt will make the country implode from the inside. After that, the movie is basically over, yet amazingly keeps on going for more than 20 minutes. Whee! We got our boat back! Put some heartwarming music in the background and people will forget that in a year or so we will have a hunger crisis. Whee! We just steal everybody's time now. So here's what we learned. East Germany is full of people who are either fascists or still have their old Soviet military uniform in the closet. The government is completely unprepared and ineffective when it comes to solve catastrophes. Neo-Nazis are not this terrible fringe group that still haunt the country like some old phantom, but a highly organized Apple company that has a private army ready to strike at the right moment to take over cities and states and declare martial law. The only way to prevent this is to re-implement socialism in order to have a state full of low-paid workers, and the democratic process is useless. Anyway, I thank you all very much for watching and hope that we can all soon again meet. The German guy out, and auf Wiedersehen.